high fun that goes along with the deep depression and the deep neurosis and the deep mania.
What attracted you about the part of Bruce Robertson in Filth?
In Filth, there was a real attempt to capture the energy, the high energy, and sometimes the high comedy and high fun that goes along with the deep depression and the deep neurosis and the deep mania that a lot of people experience who have manic depression or paranoid schizophrenia or split personality disorder. Added to that, it was Irvine Welsh's crazy view and strange, nasty, loving, violent kind of vision of not only Edinburgh but of this guy's mental health problems. And like a group of friends growing apart, this man's brain grows apart throughout the course of the film, you know, and you see him dissolve and unravel and have a mental breakdown, basically.
He seems to be quite a rotten character at first sight.
Quite a rotten
he's a
character.
plotter, but in spite of that, we don't hate him. How is that? How did you try to portray him?
I wanted to make somebody that the audience knew they shouldn't like, that was horrible. He's like standing in front of you and he's going, I am a bastard, I am someone you should hate, I am who I am, and I am strong in who I am. And then what the film does is hopefully try to make you think or make you feel humour at this man's actions and what he says. You start to think to yourself, should I be laughing at this? I don't know if I should. You start to think he's a guilty pleasure because everything he says is politically incorrect. And then you start to kind of think, there's got to be more to him, because if there's not more to him, I can't watch any more of this because it's puerile. And it's offensive. And then there is more to him. You start to sense that there's something else. You start to realise, oh my God, he's an alcoholic. Wow, okay, interesting. And you go, oh my God, he's a drug addict. You go, okay, interesting. And then you go, oh my God, he's mentally ill. And you go, oh my God, he's got split personality disorder. Oh my God, he's really mentally ill. And so the depth kind of grows and grows and grows the further you get away from that beginning.
In this film, really, you go to extremes as an actor. Is that more of a risk, or do you see it rather than a great gift in your job?
It's a risk. Any movie's a risk, but this movie particularly is a risk simply because you're asking an audience to watch something that they know in the first half an hour and the first 10 minutes might be too much for them. It might be tonally and politically, it might be too much for them. So you know you're going to potentially lose some of those audience members because you've offended them, perhaps. So that's a risk. And also it's money. It costs money to make, and if you don't make it back, you're in trouble, you know, because that's a mark against your name. So that's a risk. But that's where you want to be. You want to be making things that are not safe. So is it a risk artistically? No. It's where you want to be as a performer. You want to be somewhere that is risky, that there is a potential for failure, because without potential for failure, there is no real success. You know, there is no courage in the absence of fear, you know. Without fear, you cannot be brave.
So you saw the potential in this part, especially for you as an actor, on the spot when you were reading the script?
Especially for me as an actor? No, I saw potential for me to play a part well. And when I read it, I knew immediately what I wanted to do with it, and I knew that and that rarely happens. It's only happened to me like 2 other times, I think, with Atonement and weirdly with Narnia, where I read it and I immediately knew what I wanted to try and do with it and what I would like to make an audience feel with it, or at least try and make an audience feel with my performance, and how I would try and, in this specific film, try and manipulate the audience a little bit by making them like you against their better judgment, because that's, as an artist, that's fun to create conflict within an audience and go, why am I feeling this way about somebody I hate? Why do I feel like I want to understand somebody I hate? You know?
What I loved also about this movie is that it's very Scottish, very British. Is British, or let's say European art house film to you more of a challenge than Hollywood? I mean, in Hollywood, I don't know if it's correct, I was reading that you were initially rejected there because your looks are not all American enough, or how is that?
No, not really. I mean, I think there are films in America, art house films in America, that are just as uncompromising and just as of themselves and unconcerned with I wouldn't say that any film is unconcerned with making money. I think you ask any film director, would you prefer to make less money? They would say no, I'd like to make money, please. But I think that British and European art house cinema is less driven by money, simply because the business here is less of a business. America's really good at making the business a business, making it about numbers, and they've done that successfully. It's a humongous industry. Whereas in Europe, you know, we're not as good at making money out of it. We just aren't. So we have to concentrate on the arts so much more, because really the money's not going to come flowing in unless we break America. And it's only really, you know, how many movies out of 100 break America that come from Europe? Not many. So you see those movies that are trying to kind of chase the model of The King's Speech or The Full Monty or Piaf or, you know, Amelie or whatever it is, whichever movie it is that managed to break through the American boundary and get into their lucrative market. But you see so many films failing because they're trying to copy the equation of something mercurial that you can never recapture. You know, those movies are lightning in a bottle. The reason that they broke America, who knows, man? Just because maybe they broke America just because they're really good movies. And it depresses me when I see films trying to, they sort of cast off their identity so that they can present a more palatable version of themselves to a country that doesn't need it. And we end up patronizing America and not serving ourselves.
Is it true that you once considered to become a Catholic priest?
Yeah, I thought about becoming a priest for like 5 minutes. I didn't want to just become any priest. I wanted to become a missionary, because I wanted to be able to see the world, and I wanted to go and have adventures. And then I realized that, you know, the chances of me getting to become a missionary were fairly small. And then I met some girls, and then I started to like girls, and I realized that if I was going to become a Catholic priest, I wouldn't be able to kiss girls, and I would be like, this is bad. Or I could, but, you know, I'd probably end up in jail. And so, yeah, I decided that there were better ways to see the world and enjoy feminine delight.
From your own personal perspective, what would you say was your favorite or your most important part you played so far?
I loved the guy in Atonement, the guy called Robbie Turner. I loved him because he was just such a beautiful, kind of idealized version of what it is to be a man. And I enjoyed the process of playing Bruce a lot in Filth, because he was so rich and so difficult, and so he twists and turns, and within 4 lines he's angry, sad, happy, delighted, back to worried and scared. And that's 20 seconds on camera, you know, and that was a joy to play. After that, I'd say the best acting experience I've had ever is probably not on film, not on camera. It was on stage recently playing Macbeth in the theatre, and that was probably the most all-encompassing and thrilling and terrifying experience I've had as an actor, and most physically demanding experience I've had as an actor.
So it's more about acting than having the celebrated life of an actor, actually.
It's both. It's both. It's about protecting your ability to convincingly portray people who aren't in magazines, and it's about just protecting your own personal privacy. Those are the two main things.
Is Scottishness something that it is important to you?
Not really. I mean, I am Scottish and you'll never take that away from me, so I don't feel the need to desperately cling on to it. My accent has changed tons since I left home. You know, it's still a Scottish accent, don't get me wrong, but but I don't think any of my friends from back home would ever for a minute say that I had the same accent as I did when I left. But I meet people who have like been around in America or been in London for 14 years like I have, and their accent is still like really like really strong. And I think that's kind of bullshit in a way that I think that's bullshit as well, because it's sort of like you're trying so hard to be who you were 14 years ago, and you've just got to be who you are now. I get tired of people not being able to understand me, so I slow down for them and I change words so that they can understand what I'm saying, and I don't think there's any shame in that. I'm very patriotic. I do care about my country and I do love Scotland, but I'm not cheering about it, and I don't make my views on independence from Great Britain public. And I get very patriotic at the football. And when we
something terrible is really coming up.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to play football on camera.
Why not?
I'm sorry, because there's not a chance. But when Scotland played England recently, it's the first time in I think 14 years or something like that, maybe longer. There was we lost 3-2, but I was so proud of us, and that made me feel really patriotic because I thought we played better. We were the better team, and you know, for a much smaller nation and for a nation that is struggling financially to kind of compete in world football, we did incredibly well. I'm so proud of us. Well done, the boys.